You ready for this?
When did this go up?
Yesterday.
Wondered when the next crusade was kicking off.
I know for a fact that the Reverend lives with another man.
Didn't know you were off the market, Reverend. So who's the lucky guy?
It's amazing.
I'm here for the wedding. Jason's my uncle. I bet you've never seen someone as pretty as me before.
Real girls are pretty, I don't even know what he is.
You'd be surprised how many straight men like a big one.
Billy! We have to be prepared for controversy.
It's amazing.
What did you say to alligator?
It will hurt all of us.
Just how sweet the
He'll become an outcast, a martyr.
when what seems
What? Okay, get out of here!
turns out to be.
Well, that'll solve everything. Drag show in a church, eh?
This isn't just about you and me anymore.
Was it ever?
Standing on the doorstep of my
Welcome to Queerguru, and I think I can easily say this is the first time I've been talking about a New Zealand Samoan queer love story, which I absolutely loved. So, but without giving it all away, Paul, can you tell us in your words what it's about?
It's about a vicar, an Anglican vicar. In the US, they're Episcopalians, who lives with his long-term partner, who's Samoan. They've been together about 8 years, and they decide they want to get married in the Anglican Church. And the Anglican Church do not allow a formal wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to go ahead with one anyhow, and it becomes a bit of a news story, and various people object to it, and it blows up, and it puts a lot of pressure on their relationship. At its heart, Mysterious Ways is a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really their struggle to, have a wedding in the Anglican Church, so to speak.
It's a very contemporary love story, but it's very specific. So is it all from your imagination, or is it from an episode in your life or someone else's life?
Look, that's an interesting question. It's an area that, religion, I was brought up in a very fundamentalist Christian religion, Seventh-day Adventist. And in fact, at one point, prayed to God to make me straight, like so many people I've spoken to over the years, and went off to become a preacher with the idea that, that would straighten me out. Obviously failed. And, but ever since then, I've also, had an interest and over the years done, I have explored the gay experience, but I've always retained an interest in religion. My parents remain deeply devout. And so in a way, the film came together. It's been a long time. It took a number of years.
Really?
I was actually working with a producer in London, and she was doing a big documentary about the rift in the Anglican Church over this very issue. And I think it was a combination of those things that came together, and slowly the idea for the film formed.
It's a very personal story, but you tackle on very major issues like not just homosexuality, but church doctrine and society's prejudice. Why so much, and which one was the most important, if there was one?
It's a love story. That's the most important thing. People who love it, people who are critical. But I wanted to try and explore the characters as they emerged. I worked very closely with a Samoan writer, Diana, who brings some of that, and also my producer. It was a Pacific company that helped me get this off the ground. And one of the joys of living in New Zealand is the diversity, and I love being back here. And I think what makes New Zealand special is its Maori and Pacific flavor, and that's exciting, and that's something that I'm really proud of in the film.
It's your introduction of Jason's nephew. It's about gender definition, but it's a new angle that we wouldn't think about here in the so-called West, because there's a tradition of third spirit or free spirit.
Interestingly, I'm just actually editing at the moment a big series about this very issue here. They're called whakawhine. There are a number of other words. Most of the islands in the Pacific have a third gender, or and I think it's in a lot of indigenous cultures, as far as I understand. But obviously the modern word, you could use the word trans, but it isn't. It's much more complicated than that.
Yes.
And, in a word, I'm not the expert to speak about it. And I'm actually at some pics at the moment. So if you want an authentic Samoan input. I can grab somebody from next door and they'll tell you more about it.
This is what I feel bad about, because we're the British and we imposed all these standards of these mock, and then we left you all. And most of the countries that still come into terms with homosexuality and legality are the countries that, excuse me, we fucked up.
I mean, look, there are, I think, at least half of the Pacific nations, it's still illegal, homosexuality.
Because of the British.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I apologize.
But look, one of the exciting things down here is that people are reclaiming traditions and finding new ways of expressing their identity. And culturally, there's all sorts of fantastic things happening. And again, that's one of the things, I'm very proud. I mean, we made this little film without funding. It was made absolute shoestring. We had to shoot it in 16 days, which is crazy, and I mean, the budget is, probably a lunch for a big movie. And yet I think everybody got involved, and I love Joe, who plays Billy, brought Billy to life in a way that is authentic, and I love it, and brought so much to it. I think the fact we had so little money, I just had to work with people who got involved because they believed in it.
Do you think it has any chance of affecting the discussion at all about gender communities? Or do you think it's just going to be entertainment? I'm just curious.
To be honest, in terms of Mysterious Ways, the focus is very much about, the relationship, the central character, the relationship with the church. And, we've had some lovely reactions on, Vimeo, where people have said, this is my story. I grew up in the church. Yeah. I think in terms of, the Fa'afafine experience and the third sex, that as it's not the focus of the film, it's probably got a limited, it's limited in terms of what it can do to help that community.
Is there a journey for the film right now? I know it's just come out on VOD in the UK, and I presume the US as well.
Yes, it is available in the US through Artistical, and it's on sort of various streaming platforms.
Good.
So anything, absolutely, and it's a film that somehow speaks to some people, not other people, and I've seen it, in a cinema here in New Zealand. We had it's done very well in New Zealand. It got and obviously it's important for your home market, and we actually had a four-week run in 5 or 6 cinemas around the country, and that was just commercial. I mean, they just loved it, and we actually got an audience, and it was amazing to see the audience moved and reacting, and a lot of people, particularly people who have faith, people of faith, said.
I want to bring a similarity to you. There's a new movie out on Netflix called Outspoken, which is a lot of mainly American comedians, and it stresses how their comedy has made the community more acceptance generally, and how they push forward, and they've acknowledged it. And I believe that's so in films like yours. I think it may make a slow puddle, but it makes a difference, don't you think?
I hope so. And I mean, we've had, as I said, it's really fantastic to read some of the sort of little comments where people said, I grew up having a struggle between, my faith and being gay, and this has done so much for me. And, a recent survey in Australia found that 50% of young LGBTQ plus people had struggled over issues around faith and their sexuality. I mean, it's a completely untouched area in terms of, well, not untouched, because obviously we're exploring it and there are other films. Because the film has had such a mixed reaction, is that there's been so much oppression from religion over the years that the idea that God can love gay people. So I think a lot of young gay people, they reject it.
Yeah.
And then almost go overboard. Whereas, I think when religion is right, and I'm an atheist. I mean, I call myself a spiritual atheist. So it's not as if I particularly am, I don't go to church, I'm not, but I think, the spiritual aspect of life is important, and one of the things about the film that I feel is really important is it's also about community. And it's something that I feel community, family, these are the keys that are so important to help people's self-esteem and to be supportive.
As you said, It is available by Peccadillo. We're going to run the details now, and you can stream it, rent it, or buy it, but go see it. And even if you don't like the religious side, the guy's really good looking too. Thank you for talking to us. And I know it's early in the morning in New Zealand to get on with your day. Thank you, Paul. Good to talk to you.
Standing on the doorstep of my 13th house.
How are you two doing?
Why? Has he said something? Billy, what happened?
That all space for
Ned.
me had run out.
I miss him so much.
He's not into your sissies.
What life did you have before us?
Why take something so beautiful
How dare you?
and make it ugly?
You're not my savior.
It's amazing.